Hi and welcome to Fabric Bias. It is Saturday, December 16th, 2023, and it's just a little bit later than a few more hours after my last video on that one. I wanted to show you where I was at this point because there's some different sewing method that I wanted you to see. So what I did do was I have sewn on all my bags. I have sewn them, the lining to the body at the shoulder and head piece here. This is what I call it at any rate. On all of them, all of these bags. So they're all now together. And I was going to show you, thought I'd show you, oh, I have it upside down. Thought I'd show you how I did that. So what I did was I would, make sure I'm in camera here. I sewed here, put it down. I would sew here, 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 and here. And so let me show you this. I back tack at the beginning. I come to my corner and I back tack, I turn and I back tack, I come up and I back tack, I turn and I back tack, and then I go all the way down and do the same thing here. Back tack here, back tack here, back tack here, and back tack here. And I'll show you why a little bit later in the video on that one. But once I get to this, to the end of this bag here, or once I got to it, because I've already done it, I would just take the next one, and under my needle I would butt them up together and continue onto this bag and back tack and go around and do the same thing there. And then I would, as soon as I did a little bit right through here, I cut this one off from this one because I don't have that much room behind my machine. And then when I got to the end of this one, I took this piece, flipped it over, and sewed the other side. Same way, tucking it up. And I only did 2 at a time. I would do, because there's just not enough room behind my machine to do this size bag and do all 15 bags and get them all together. So that's how I chain stitched all of these to get them done quickly. And then once you have all of these done, so this is what I've stopped. I sort of stopped the batch sewing process just so I could show you these next few stages. I'll go back to sewing them all in just a minute when I do it. So once you've got the head and shoulders done on both sides, then you're going to take the bag, and this is where it's different from the video that I watched on how that person sewed. So I would encourage you to go back and watch that video and look at her methodologies, or the person's methodologies. I don't know if it was he or she. You can kind of watch the different portions of this video and then kind of pick the way that works best for you. Like, I know in that original video, that person cuts out her corners. I'm just going to say she. And also does the method where you cut out here to make your width of your bag. For some reason in this bag, I just feel like I like the corner method better, the triangle method better on that one, but you could certainly cut this portion out and sew it the other way. But let me show you what I did. So take this, once you've got it all sewn together, you're going to, you have your center here, and you're going to go from your center and just pull it open like that. So now you have head and shoulders on this side, head and shoulders on this side. You have your lining pieces mated up and your exterior pieces mated up. And you're going to just carefully match your seams here and push one side, your seam allowance on this side over one way, and then this one this way, and then sorry, that's noisy, and then clip it, and then you clip the other side. But when you clip the other side, you want to make sure that your seam allowance, if you laid it this way, it also lays that way on this side. So when you made it up, and you want to carefully do that because you'll be able to see, and I'll show you on mine in just a second. There you go. Mate that up like that, and clip it. And let me see, how far did I go on the other one? Okay. So, and then also you can see where I marked where the rectangle was earlier in my seam allowances. I can match that up like that, and I know this is all mated up nicely like that, and clip on that. So you do that all the way around. When you're clipping this, let me see. Oh, there it is. So let me get that one out of the way, and I'll show you how I clip it. So on this one, you can see, let me see how far. Push that right there. Okay, so you can only see one side. So I have pins here and here. That is at the 2.5 inch mark where I know I'm going to be cutting this portion out to get my width of my fabric. So I marked it with a pin just to notate that. And that's where that the little line is. I don't know if you can see, it's still, but that's where the top of my rectangle is. I marked my seam on, so I've got that when I pull it together. I've got it pinned. On the other one, I just clipped it, but I'm pinning it here. And so on one side, so on this side, I'm going to sew from end all the way through, just straight through. But what I'm going to do, because I know I'm cutting this out from here to here, and from here to here, the corners out, I'm going to just, what I do, if you're, because I'm going to use these little pieces here to sew a teeny little zipper pouch, I just widen my stitch length here. So I'll do a really small back tack to hold my seam in place, widen my stitch length to, I don't know, 4.5, because it doesn't matter. I need it to hold for a little while, but then I want to be able to rip it out because I'm making that little bag. And if you're doing the little zipper pouch like I do, I'll show you that at the very end. You may want to do the method where you're cutting it the other way. You might find that easier. But this was the main bag. This was what was important to me, and the other little zipper pouch is a bonus. So that's why I do it this way, because it just feels right doing it as a triangle method. I will try the other method eventually and maybe change my mind, but you know, for now. So I'm going to widen my stitch length. I'm going to come back to at the pin. I'm going to come back at 2.5 regular stitch length for me. Back tack here, sew all the way down here to the next pin, back tack, and then elongate my stitch length because that's the other corner that's going to get cut out. On this side, on your lining side, you need to leave a turning gap, and you should leave a really big turning gap on that. So I have a 4-inch turning gap here. That's as big as I could get it, and still have everything back tacked where I wanted it back tacked. And that's because you have to get through the exterior with the batting on it and the interior with the fusible fleece on it. There's just a lot of bulk. And the bigger gap you leave, the easier it is to turn through, the faster it is to turn through, and then the neater this ends up being. The smaller the gap, the harder you have to work to get it through, the messier this gap becomes, and you have to clean that up before you go. So it's just actually, I think, faster and easier if you just leave a bigger gap. I used to try to leave the smallest gap as I could, and yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way. So 4-inch, at least a 4-inch gap here. The trick to leaving the turning gap is it needs to be above where you're going to be, the corner is going to be cut off. So above where you're, for me, where this pin is marking right now, above the 2.5-inch mark on that. And I will back tack, on this one, small back tack here, and elongated long stitch, put my stitch back to regular, back tack here. So all the way across here, I might back tack here over the, where I've mated my seams, or my lining in my exterior, and then back tack here to stop, leave my turning gap, jump that section, back tack, and then back tack right here again at the pin, because I know I'm cutting off right here, so I'd like it to be reinforced here on that, and then finish stitching here. You have to have the stitching in because you're going to be matching this side to this side, and you need to know where that is. You have to have the seam sewn for that. So there's that on that. So next step of that, I think, let's see, is here. So here it is all sewn together. So I sewed all of this, and I have my turning gap right here. And so what I'm going to do now is I want to match this side seam to this fold. And I do that by pulling this bag open and creating a triangle. That's why I call it the triangle method. And I like to open up the seam so I can feel better. And I'm making sure that that seam, I can feel that seam is lined up with this fold. And I'm going to clip it open. And when I open it up, you can see there are those lines. That was the edge of the rectangles. They're now mated together. So I know I've got it nicely matched. And I know where I have a good idea where I'm going to be drawing my line to cut this off. So you do that on the 4 sides. I like to go above and below the line while I'm messing with it so that it doesn't shift while I mess around with the other side. And again, all you do is take it, pull it open to form a triangle, and then you're going to be careful to make sure to match the seam with the fold. And I just do that by feeling it and making sure that I can feel that matching up. You can see my lines didn't mate on this one, but that's okay. I know they're close. And it could be that I just marked it wrong. So, and you just clip it. Oh, I got some closer. Won't be so noisy. So you just clip it, and I'm going to go ahead and finish clipping this so I don't have to do that again. And that you're going to do these 2 corners. This is the lining. You're going to do the exterior pieces same way. Pull them apart, match them up, and get all 4 of those done. And then next step is, drop that on the floor. Next step is to actually sew it. So you're going to measure and mark. So you saw that I had the little marks there that I made it up. That's where you're going to cut. It's at 2.5 inches. What I like to do is put it on my cutting mat, put my point here, and then I use this, my 6-inch one, because I know 5 would just be a perfect fit, and I want it to actually extend. And then I measure, I put my 2.5-inch mark at the point, and I come up, and I make sure this is straight, and then I mark a line here, right across. And I'm using chalk still. You really could use a pen because you're going to be sewing right over it. It's not going to show up anywhere, and you're on the inside, on the lining of the bag, so you're going to flip it around. No one's ever going to see it, so you could use a pen, one that doesn't bleed at any rate on that. And so I know that's 2.5. This allows me, the little markings you can't see because I've already marked over it, but the little markings that I made previously let me know, okay, yeah, I'm in the right spot. So I know I'm marking each of my corners the same size on that. So I also make sure that this center line right here is lined up with my seam, so I know I'm going straight. I'm going straight across. So you sew that across, and then once you sew it across, you're going to cut it off about 1/4 inch off here. So what I do is I take my ruler, I line up that 1/4 inch mark with the seam, not the blue line, but with the seam, and then I just use my rotary cutter and cut it off on it. If I didn't have my rotary cutter, I'd probably mark it with a pen and then cut it with a pair of scissors on that. So I would show you how to do it, but I don't want to do it. I'd probably knock my camera over if I try to do it on camera because I'm behind my camera right now. But I just take that, and the blue line I actually did sew really well, so my blue line is my seam, but I line that up with my seam. Again, not the blue line, in case I didn't sew on my blue line. And then I'm going to cut across, straight across here. And I'll do that for all 4 of my corners. So you can see here, I have these pinned and marked, ready to go. You can't really see where the line was. The chalk's starting to wear off, and it was a lighter color. I don't think it'll show up on camera. Oh, there. Okay, so this, there you can see the blue line here. It was actually a pinkish one on this one, but I knew that wouldn't show up on camera, so I remarked it in blue, so that's why it looks nicely straight across there on that. So I do, a lot of times when I do this, I zigzag across this after I'm done. It just, that way I know this isn't going to fray. And so that's kind of an option if you want to do that or not on that. So once you do this stage, then you're going to, okay, before you're almost ready. So you're going to sew all 4 corners, cut them all off carefully, zigzag if you want to. And then before you flip, you need to, on the head pieces here, you need to trim and cut here. So that's why I like to back tack here and here, is because I know I'm going to be cutting that diagonal cut here and here. And then the reason I also back tack in the corners here is I'm going to be cutting right up to that seam, not through it, but right up to that seam, so that when I flip it, it lays nicer. So you're going to do that to this side in these 2 parts, and then remember there's another head on this side. So you have to cut these 2 and cut into these corners here. And then it's ready to flip. once you've got all those corners done. Not going to do that on camera. And then, ta-da, this is what it looks like when you flip it. So you will flip it right side out and then press your turning gap closed. I used my brayer this time and it worked. Calling it a brayer because I don't know what else to call it. And then I like to seam pretty, I don't just, usually don't just sew the opening, but I like to start higher up and kind of sew pretty much the whole side there down. So it doesn't look like it's just, you know, that little bit. And then you stuff the lining into the exterior. And ta-da, you're ready for the next step on that. So still not done. There's still, but really, I'm not going to say a ways to go because after all of that, it's definitely not a ways to go. You're in the home stretch. You have to press all of this. And so what I'll do is, like I did before, open this up, use my brayer to flatten that seam out so that it will sit on top when I go to press it. And then I will use my iron and press this all the way around and top stitch here, through here, and here, through here, all the way around here to finish that off. And then I'm almost ready for my handles and everything else. So I'll stop the explanation there. You really could, once you've top stitched it, you could be done. You don't have to put handles on it. It would be just fine as a bag like that. It will lay better once the top stitching is in place, but ta-da, you could be done just like that. So there it is. That's it for now. That's kind of long, so I'm going to stop right there. More hopefully tomorrow. And thanks for watching. And I hope that wherever and whenever you're at, you're having a great time. Bye for now.